Hello everyone, I am live on Desi Qanoon for a live session on the topic of matrimonial. So we will be waiting just few minutes more so that we can have maximum number of people or viewers and can start the live session in another 1 or 2 minutes. I would also like to thank the Desi Qanoon before starting my session for arranging these kinds of live session on their portal so that viewers are being given good knowledge about the law, their legal rights in various sectors. As you know that law is a vast field, and apart from that, as this session which I am going to go for which I'll be doing right now is the session for matrimonial dispute and the ambit of family law. This session has already been done earlier also on maybe a couple of days back, but due to some problem through online we were not being able to save this session. There was a popular demand of this session from my side and from the to the Desi Qanoon also, that what about the matrimonial point, as this session was not been done earlier, this topic was not been covered earlier, though there were very distinguished people who were there on the Desi Qanoon who were covering with good legal problems, legal solutions to different sectors on law. So far as this topic was concerned, it was not being covered earlier, so they were getting good demand of it, so they requested me and I tried to do it again, and it is this time we will, God forbid, we would be able to save this. So now most of them must be repeating it. So major factors which I spoke the last time when I got on live, I spoke about this particular topic, but this time I would like to make it more and more exhausted with it. So let's start. So thank you Amit and your team to organize these kinds of session, and I would start now as we have got good viewers over here. So what is family law? My topic for today is family law, ambit of family law, the provisions of family law, and the matrimonial dispute and the legal solutions to it. What is family law basically, and what are the family codes basically? The family codes is basically the codes which have been designed to the respect with the litigants who are in relationship of matrimonial to each other. So these are those codes. And apart from these things, we would like to tell you one thing more, that family codes basically deals with separate filing, their separate counseling sessions are there. They're dealing with Hindu laws, they're dealing with other laws related to the matrimonial, related to legitimacy, related to guardianship, related to custody. So when these kinds of laws are being covered, so it covers under a family law and it covers under a family codes. We have a specific family codes act for that, so which governs into that. And whatever relationship litigation, if you see, they have to be filed under the definite family code. So each and every court has the family code designed for these kinds of matters. Like we have district courts in all over Delhi. So these district courts have their special family codes which speaks about the family laws, which speaks about the litigants who come there to have the family law, family litigation. So you must be aware, you must not be aware, some of must be aware also, that basically the family ambit of family law is it's a huge ambit. Generally when we come out of this law college or law school, we were not aware that which sector we should go, because law is it's huge, it's too large. We cannot choose so many fields into this. There are IPRs, there are civil law, it is a criminal law, then there is specific field for the bankruptcy, the arbitration. There are so many things, banking laws. So which field we should choose in? We were really confused at family law. Generally now people and the students are running towards the bankruptcy or towards the arbitration or towards the IPR. There was a trend, they were in between. It was that family law was being more into the picture, but now the viewers or the students feel that the family law is as a boring of only having the relationships or having the litigation between the husband and wife, and which only covers the family law. It covers like or only about the divorce sector, or it will only covers about the custody sector. It's not that. Today in this session I would like to explain, and I will throw a light upon the ambit of family law, that how huge the family law is and what all matters we have done being into a family law, being having a specialization of a matrimonial field from more than a decade. I have been doing, and what all matters I have covered under this family law. And it would be really interesting session, because here I will not gonna go into the academics of the family law, I will not go into the territorial of the family law. I will only try to explain the family law, the ambit of family law to the viewers according to my own experience, my own examples. So it might help, and it might be an interesting topic, because generally when I have to go with the book, it might be boring, but when it is an interactive session, it can be interactive. The last 10 minutes or 5 minutes we can keep it for the question and answers. You can ask the question and answers after the session. So we would start with it. I should make myself introduce. Is like I am Advocate Juhi Arora from Supreme Court, and I've been practicing into matrimonial law, specialization into that from last more than a decade. I have been on the legal advisory board member of the Lloyd Law College. I am one of the employer list of the CRC member of the Amity Law, and I am also a legal member of the ethical committee of the Jeanscart, and we have filed numerous cases against these celebrity cases also, and the cases which have been listed, reported. So by the God's grace, it was a good journey. So I would now try to explain according to my own examples and beliefs, which I feel that would be more motivating you and would be more informative to you, because I am not a professor, so I cannot go for a bookish lecture or speech. So first I would divide the family law into a civil law and a criminal law. That family law gives you a good enjoyment, a good cup of sugar and salt. It's like what I would say, that it have a mix of civil law in it has a mix of criminal law also. Like when I have started this practice, I have only a view that I would only filing the cases regarding the matrimonial things. But sooner or later, with time and time, we come to know that in family law, we have so much other laws involved into it that we are really shocked to see that these kinds of matter can be associated with the family law. So what all factors we can think in the family law, into civil side. And as far as even the civil side is also concerned, then also it is divided. Like there can be a laws of a woman, of a married woman, and there can also be a laws for the unmarried woman, that is a woman who are into live-in relationships. So I would cover that also a little bit, maybe later. But right now we will only focus about the laws which come into the picture when we argue on matrimonial laws, which have the civil side of it. What are those civil side? That once if we are having the matrimonial dispute, husband and wife, what all wife have the rights towards the laws, and what legal rights she have against the husband or the family. So we would start with it. Into civil law, she can go and file the cases of section 9 against the husband for restitution. She can go and file the cases against the of suit for injunctions. that she can ask the court to give the restrainment order against the husband for not alienating or selling the matrimonial property. Then all the family courts deal with the matrimonial issues or the other issues with party with having the relation of matrimonial with each other. So we have to keep in mind whatever case if we are filing which are in the relationship of a marriage among the parties, or the relationship of a which has to be filed in the family court. If you will go for civil suit, the cases will be transferred to family court eventually. What all she can do? She can go for having the suit for declaration. There was a client whom I filed the suit for injunction and the suit for declaration. It was filed in the family court. The family courts have the power to go with have the power and the jurisdiction to have the taking the cognizance of the present suit. The suit was being filed. Then what else? If wife is having a problem, now I will come little to the husband side. If wife is a problematic, if wife is going wrong and the property is purchased by the husband has been in the name of the wife, so what husband can do? He can also go and file the case for declaration under the Benami Act. So which says that the husband can also approach. So what all these things? Have you ever heard about these acts also once you are into the family law? No, because viewers, students, generally I think students are the viewers over here, do not have even the idea that the family law covered the huge aspect. So Benami transactions come into the picture here when we file the case against the wife in the favor of the husband, and it was filed in the High Court, Delhi High Court itself. So we got the order from there also. So this kind of cases, when we come across, it is really astonishing that it has a huge ambit. Then secondly, what else? I would try to give you one example here, that I was for the husband side in one case. The husband and wife was going for under the litigation under other cases. She has filed some DV, just general cases which the girls generally file with CW, cell complaint and all. The husband has filed. Husband was living in a rented accommodation with the wife. Husband moved out of rented accommodation because of the continuous violence was there against the husband by the wife. So the wife did not left the place, and due to that the landlord sued the husband and wife for eviction. So now the suit for eviction come into the picture. We cannot think that if matrimonial is being concerned, so ever we can have a suit for eviction notice also in a matrimonial case. No, generally we don't think that. We only have the focus towards the matrimonial dispute related to a divorce, related to custody, visitation, at max to the guardianship, at max to the CAW cell, FIRs and something like that. No, but it has a huge ambit. Its suit for eviction was being filed where the husband was also a party, wife was also a party. They fought the cases. So these kinds of cases which come across in a family law, and it gives a wholesome package of a civil law and a criminal law also. So it is not a small law. It might be more bigger than IPR if you think that, because it covers huge of the things. Then there is a writ which we can file in during the family law also. We've got a case where the husband has filed a writ against the wife of habeas corpus in the High Court regarding the information about the children, where the wife has not been giving it. So these kinds of writ which come into the picture can be through family law also. When there are a matrimonial dispute, writ can also be a part of that dispute, and writ can be a file. Writ can also be one kind of a remedy which can be availed by the parties. And then now not only this, if there was an interesting case which I come across, that was an anti-suit injunction where we got the injunction in favor of the wife against the husband from the Delhi High Court. Because for what? You won't imagine. The injunction for what? For was not prosecuting any case or not filing any case against the wife in the court of Germany. So the husband was in Germany. He got the lady summoned from the Germany in divorce matters and the guardianship matter. The lady went to the Delhi High Court. I argued the matter. It was a whole day matter which was argued. So many judgments was being exchanged in that court, and then we eventually got the injunction, anti-suit injunction in the case. So in the family matter only. So it was a husband and wife matter, but it actually gave us a different remedy. So these all cases are a part of family law only. So I would, by these examples, I would like to explain the fact that the family law go hand in hand with some other remedies of law, and you have to learn, and you will have so much of new things coming across in every matter, so that it won't be a boring or monotonous for only filing of divorce, or on limiting on to only filing of the CAWCL complaints. It has so many new things into it. Then anti-suit, I told you, the writ I told you, the Benami transaction I told you, the suit for declaration, injunction is I told you. Then what left? Then caveat is also there. We've got the matter in we've got the decree of divorce from the lower court. The husband immediately filed the caveat in the high court that if the wife goes into a high court, so we would get a definite chance before giving any interlocutory order against us. So what is that? Caveat is also a part of a legal remedy which have family law covers with it. Like the litigants have the things which comes into family law. It is a huge aspect. Otherwise, once you read the family law, it covers the Hindu Marriage Act, it will cover the Hindu Adoption Act, it will cover the Succession Act, other acts, but you won't be able to imagine that caveat also part of which can go hand in hand with family law, that we have to file the caveat. So we filed it, and we were being safe for getting any interlocutory order against us. Then what? Then it's a contempt proceedings. Contempt proceedings is a very common thing which generally arose in the family courts, which arose from the orders of the family courts. Like a family, in one of my case, family court has ordered somebody and the party did not obey that order, it dishonored the order, so the other party went into a contempt in Delhi before the High Court of Delhi. So which I want to explain is that the contempt proceedings is also a part of the family law, which gives the parties a reasonable remedy to go and file against the violator. Then what else? It will not restrict you only to district courts. The family law will not restrict you only to family courts. It would always give you a choice. It will always give you a chance to go into a high court and also to Supreme Courts. Like appeals are very common, and especially when you read the family court, it specifically says that no appeal shall lie in district courts. So also all the appeals from the family court have to be gone in under the Family Courts Act and in the High Court only, and the time and the limitation for those appeals are 30 days. So my friends, I would try to explain here again that the ambit of family law is too much. You can't even dream, or you can't even imagine that what kind of cases we have fought or we are learning every day in the family law. It is really very interesting, and making a career and choosing a career in family law, it's really an interesting one. You would really feel and see numerous cases and new cases in that you won't be having the you have to imagine the idea, and you have to imagine the legal remedy of those new problems. So when the problems occurs, you have to go to the right solution to it. So these are the right solutions which I am telling you that the family law covers with. So now what is appeal? When you got some order from the lower court and you have to challenge it, then you go into an appeal. So family law also give you a chance to come in the high court by going with appeals. So you can go with appeals, you can go there with contempt petitions. So these are you can go and file the caveat in the high courts. So these are the petitions, these are the legal solutions to problems which occurs there. Then what is which we are Also, we can go to Supreme Court also. There are transfer petitions also. There are numerous transfer petitions have been filed regularly in Supreme Courts for transferring the cases. What is the transferring of the cases? If I have filed the case in Mumbai and my husband has got me someone from Bangalore, so I could ask the Supreme Court, I could request the Supreme Court to transfer that Bangalore case to Mumbai, because I am already pursuing my cases from Mumbai for some XYZ reasons, so that court can give you that relief. So then family law, that is a matrimonial dispute only. Nobody asked, nobody thought that we would go in Supreme Court regarding this. Yes, but there is a provision of transfer petitions where you can go there and you can seek the relief in matrimonial law only, in family law only. Actually, transfer petitions can be filed in other laws also, in other problems also, not only in family laws. But I would, of course, because today's topic is of family law, so I am trying to explain that what all provisions you have, what all other remedies you have when you are doing the family laws, when you are dealing with matrimonial matters. So basically, these are the provisions, these are the solutions I have gone through in my own journey. So I am trying to explain those only, so that you can have the interest to get into a family law, so that you won't be imagining to that extent that only family law covers with the single divorce or only maintenance matters. No, it has a huge ambit, it has a vast circle. I am getting the question, but I think we would go with question and answer little later. So kindly please wait, so that we can have these question answer in the last. You can again text me those questions once I will ask for doing that. First, let me cover those points. Then what else? You have mutual consent also. You can file for mutual consent in family courts. Then what? Now coming the next, which I am going to tell you, would be really an interesting case. What? The husband and wife file the cases against each other. The wife has leveled some allegations against the particular woman. That woman has filed a suit for defamation against the particular wife. So the wife, who was my client, got the notice for suit for defamation. So what is that? Suit for defamation is also a civil litigation, where it can be one of the relief to a litigating party, and it can go hand in hand with family laws, it can go hand in hand with family codes. So of course, suit for defamation has to be filed in a separate civil case. It will not go for family courts, but it is one of the provisions, or it is one of the thing which you can come across while dealing with matrimonial clients. So we have got the suit for defamation also. So what all things which I am telling you right now is like, you must have not correlated with the matrimonial law. That is my main task and main objective to hold this session, is like these provisions which I am telling you right now. These are basically those things which are not to be correlated generally, but actually they are directly or indirectly indicating to each other. And somebody also won't be imagining that yes, petitions under Maintenance and Adoptions and Succession Act, these are the common, everybody know that it covers the family law. So generally these kinds of things comes into the picture. But apart from that civil litigation, we have a criminal side also to the family law. We would discuss now with the criminal side what all the criminal cases which we can correlate with matrimonial problems, which we have matrimonial dispute or the family law which can be correlated with each other. If one client is coming to you as a lawyer and you are dealing as a lawyer to that particular client, so what things you have to keep in mind, and if all these things which I have told you, if it is there in your mind, so that you can pick that problems and correlate to that particular thing. Like an example, I told you that you can suggest those things, that you can suggest to file a caveat if somebody approaches you, and you can suggest to go and file the habeas corpus writ if somebody approaches you. You can suggest these kind of provisions which I have told you. If you do not have the knowledge about these provisions, how would you be explaining to your client? How would you be telling to your client? So you have to keep in mind that these provisions also go, and these are the remedies which your party can have. Like I told you, the suit for defamation, suit for injunction, Benami transactions, then caveat, contempt, transfer petition. These are the provisions into the civil side of that particular matrimonial dispute. If you have those things in your mind, then tomorrow if client will convert, if client will turns up, then he would be seeking the legal advice from you, and you can project any of this provision to the particular client related to that particular facts of that particular problem. So now what is the criminal side of that particular family law? If you can see, what are the criminal law where criminal litigation you reach in the matrimonial dispute. The criminal side is also a very interesting side, trust me, and you won't imagine there are so much provisions have been there, and so good things can be there in the criminal side also, that it would be really interesting to argue the matter. It would be really interesting to deal with those clients who are giving you good initiative regarding the law. And basically I would say you one thing, our client only teaches us, हमारा client ही हमें सिखाता है. That's the big mantra, because when they come with the new problems, then only you open the window of your mind and you search here and there for seeking the best remedy you can give to your client. So these are the best remedies, and you might get another remedies also apart from these. Maybe these are the handful remedies which I would be explaining. Then what is the criminal side? Criminal side is the 498A. The FIRs been lodged in the particular matrimonial dispute is the criminal side. Like once the girl has filed the case and CW cell, the FIR is converted into a complaint. Complaint is converted into an FIR. So in that ways, when the FIR has been registered, it can be registered under various provisions of IPC. So this is also one of the criminal side, that you have to draft a complaint, you have to get it converted into an FIR by following up, by doing the basic needs of the CAW cell, and then you have to got the bails also for your clients, those are accused in that particular FIR. So bails is also very interesting thing. Anticipatory bails have to be filed, normal bails have to be filed, regular bails have to be filed. And not only this, like you won't imagine, there was a client who turned up and we got the anticipatory bail for that particular client, and it was a good success for that client that he got that bail. He was really happy that he got that particular bail. But then after a few months, the wife again filed some specific allegations of rape, and she filed a substituted complaint stating that these said allegations have not been filed in the previous complaint due to some XYZ reasons. But then we again challenged that particular complaint, we again filed for bail, and we specifically tried to convince the judge that the fact is that where she has filed the other cases, she has never leveled these allegations after filing the complaint in other cases also. Why she is filing for this particular complaint after 2 years of filing of X number of cases? So these were the grounds which were being taken there, and we've got the anticipatory bail again. So I would like to explain the criminal side, that as a lawyer you have to deal with civil and criminal both. It's not that only civil lawyer can have a good practice of family law. No, you have to go hand in hand with civil and criminal both. So you should be well equipped with civil law and the criminal law of both, because once the matrimonial problem is there, it has to be deal with both the things, civil and criminal. It's not that only civil will or only criminal will give you a success, or the client would get the relief or justice only by going with civil cases. Then what else you can go with this? Then domestic violence is one of the case. where you have a criminal side of the particular litigation. Now, domestic violence, I won't say it's a pure civil criminal, because it's a quasi civil matter. It deals with civil, it goes with civil litigation, kind of civil litigation. So it's a mix of both of it. It's not a proper. Now what next? You won't imagine the girl. I come across one of my client. She told me that my husband has used my IDs and has started using those IDs without my permission. That social profiles, portals, and everything, because he was knowing my password. And now when I have been having a strained relations with that husband, he is using those IDs and passwords. So what is the problem with him? I don't know, but what should I do? So cyber crime, here the cyber crime comes also in the picture. So for stalking, for intrusions, these are the basic things which I want to tell you, that if you go with family law, then you have to be good, having the good knowledge of the other laws connected to it, which will go hand in hand. Like one of the, I told you, like CRPC, CPC. Now that it comes into a picture of cyber law. So we have got that particular complaint under the cyber law. This is the one of the other thing which, apart from other provisions, is there, cyber law. Then what next? This is which is called now 156(3) CRPC, 156(3) CRPC. What is that? If the police people are not lodging an FIR against the particular accused, then you can approach the magistrate for ordering the police people, or ordering the state to lodge an FIR. That is called 156(3). That is called 156(3) of CRPC. So this is also a application which is made under the CRPC. So 156 CRPC, which says that, which I told you right now. So this is also one of the legal provision you have while you deal with matrimonial clients. You won't imagine, there was a guy which came to me, husband. I was for the husband side in that case particularly, and he has filed the case of 156(3) on the ground that the wife has done a theft. After going to her parental place, she again visited and she had theft in the house of the husband, and she took away all the gold articles of the mother of the husband also. So 156 also deals with the husband side also. It's not that only girls can, for women have filed it. There was a case where we have got that 156 done from the sister side to the against the brothers. There was a case where we filed for suit for partition in High Court, where the sisters and brothers were in relationship with each other, having the sister and brother relation, and because of that they were not, the property dispute was there between the brother and sister of the father. So that ways, for preventing the rights of the girl related to the relinquishment deed which they have falsely signed, we challenged that relinquishment deed, and we also filed the 156(3) under 156(3) the application, and also we filed it to the particular jurisdiction, and we got relief from there. The FIR was being issued, the FIR to lodge an FIR, then the order was being issued to lodge an FIR. So these things which come across while dealing with clients of matrimonial, you have so many legal solutions to so many legal problems. Then what the I've already, then again the defamation, you can again go for defamation. It's not, defamation can be civil defamation and can be criminal defamation. So then there is a defamation also which can come into the picture. You can file the suit for defamation into civil side, and you can file for the lodging an FIR comes into the picture of the matrimonial case. So a widow who comes after the death of the husband can also seek for her rights by filing the case under Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act. She can also file the cases husband had told me that the wife is lying in the court about the residence where she has filed it, from the address which she has filed it. We have moved up court with the perjury application on behalf of the husband, and the court took the cognizance on perjury application, and the necessary orders were issued on that particular application. So that was the thing which come across into my mind. Is my voice is not audible? Let me check it out. I think now it's better. So yes, so that was the perjury application which we filed in the Supreme Court. So these kinds of civil and the criminal, these kinds of civil and criminal provisions which are there, with comes in the package of family law. So why I am telling you this, because you would no counsel, no book will tell you priorly when you get into this family law. Nobody will tell you that these things you have to keep in mind. Once the client rush to you, you have to correlate your provisions, keep it a pen and paper and start writing it. No, nobody will say that. It's you, your clients will make you learn about these provisions once they will come with legal problems to you. So now what is the point? Why these things are there? When you are coming up with these things, you will be able to know that you have to be well equipped with civil law and criminal law when it comes to a family problems, when it comes to a family law. So what else? Now I would also cover that, as I had told you in the beginning, that what are the live-in relationships also, because it also one of the part of the family law, because once you are not married but you are there as an husband and wife and you are in a live-in relationship with somebody, so it will covers in but now it covers that. As there was a landmark judgment which came in 2015 that the couples living in live-in relationship will be presumed to be legally married. That was a landmark judgment which came in 2015, which created a havoc everywhere, that what exactly it is. But this was only been concerned for those ladies, for those women who were getting injustice, who were being tortured, and who were not having any right over that particular relationship after giving so much of years to that particular relation. So what is that? But there are some thumb rules which the Supreme Court, and there are some guidelines which the Supreme Court has laid down in that particular judgment. What are those guidelines? What are those guidelines? Can anybody told me? Yes, the guidelines were like one guideline which was laid down there, that husband and wife has to be definite period, that they must be staying, the couples must be staying for a definite period. They should not be walk in and walk out relationship. Once that was the thumb rule, was that it should not be a walk in and walk out relationship. It should not be a walk in and walk out relationship, that you tomorrow you stay and then yesterday you stay and tomorrow you don't stay. That will not be the part of it. So it has to be a definite relationship between each other, and they must be living as husband and wife in the eyes of law, in the eyes of society. So if they are living as husband and wife in the eyes of society, they were being stated as the husband, and they were being presumed as husband and wife. So these are some guidelines which were being there. Then they should have been having the of the particular judgment on 2015 it came out. I would refer that also. That was a double bench judgment. Then financial arrangement should be there, that parties should have joint accounts in together, or they should have the joint investments in regards to that, in respect to that. So these parameters were there, that they have lived for a definite period, they have lived as husband and wife in the eyes of society, and then they have no walk in and walk out relation, they have a child out of that relation, and they have their financial arrangements together. So these kinds of things actually give a lady a right. What rights now you have after that live-in relationships? The rights were as rights as a married woman get, and not only the married woman has get the rights, even the child born parents of both mother and father both. So these are the particular basic rights which were being given by that particular judgment. They were being presumed to be legally married, and the rights were being given to the wife also, and also to the children. Also the children coming out of that particular relationship, coming out of that particular relationship which is presumed to be a legal married relationship. Then what is next? Now the laws which covers these kind of relationships is like I told you, that 125 also covers this, and the domestic violence also covers this. Ambit of domestic violence is also big, so that these kinds of ladies can come, these kinds of litigants can come to the court and get the particular reliefs from these particular laws. So child is also secured in these kinds of relationships. The women are also secured in these kinds of relationships. One thing more which I want to cover before closing the session for leaving the sessions for question and answer. The last thing which I want to cover here is that, so when it comes to particular matrimonial dispute, so I have got these things which says that you have a civil remedy, you have a criminal remedy. The judgment by the double bench was by the name of S.P. Balasubramaniam versus Suratyam. That is the double bench judgment by the Justice Iqbal and Amivata Rao. It came in 2015. Even if you'll Google it also, if my voice is not clear, you can Google it also, that the landmark judgment came in 2015. You'll come to know, and you can read that judgment also, and it will help you to grow your skills, to grow your knowledge regarding that particular sector, because this is a very upcoming sector, upcoming problems like cyber law is, if it is our upcoming cyber law, that cyber crimes are increasing, then the laws related to the domestic violence and also the related to the live-in relationship is also increasing day by day. So this is also a law which every lawyer coming into a family law should be well equipped with dealing with these kinds of live-in relationships. So there was civil sector, there were criminal sector, which was being covered in the particular session, where you have civil remedies, where you have criminal remedies, and you can go for these remedies once you are dealing with client in matrimonial dispute. So I have almost covered major sections of family law. As I first of all told you in my first beginning, in my starting, that I would be covering about the family courts, the family laws, and also the civil and criminal remedies which you have in the matrimonial dispute. I won't be able to cover much of the bookish things with my live examples, so that you can come to and correlate my example, and it would be a successful session. Then only, if tomorrow if client comes to you and give you a problem, and you can correlate this live session with that particular problem, and you can quickly give the sorted legal remedy to that particular client, I think this session would be sorted there and then only. Because today maybe in this session you have got these remedies, so tomorrow it might help you when you will deal your clients. Like if somebody comes to you and say that I've got a decree of divorce, but I feel that my wife can go in an appeal, what should I do? So you can immediately say that, and can link my session with that particular remedy, that you can file a caveat. So these kinds of remedies will help you to grow your own having a practice of advocacy in family law. So now I think which we have started getting the questions. I have got a first question which I told that I would be taking in the last. That was something someone has asked me, please tell me the procedure. I was not knowing for what she was asking the procedure. Can you please explain me again, so I could answer your question? Somebody asked me in the beginning. I would request you to please give your question again, so I can answer this. I have just read that what is the procedure of this, ma'am, but what exactly you were asking, what procedure you were asking, I was not knowing. So if you can say that, it would be helpful. So now I am coming with the other question, ma'am. What is the views on the cases of 498A in which conviction rate is very low? Don't you think that law needs to be changed in these matters in the interest of justice? So it is a very debatable topic. It is not a question which is directly related to law. So Jaiswal has asked me. So I would only comment is that the cases of 498, Google the judgments also, there are various judgments which seeks that and which held that the woman can also file maintenance under 125 who is in a live-in relationships. Ma'am, I would wanted to ask the procedure for filing the transfer petition in court. Transfer petition can only be filed in Supreme Court. So once you are transferring the cases from state the interlocutory application with it, don't forget to attach it with your transfer petition, because once if you have not attached the 39(1) and 2, court will not grant you interim stay on that particular case which you want to get it transferred from one state to another. So meanwhile the matter is listed in the Supreme Court, you have to get the 39(1) stay also, so that meanwhile the stay should be affected on that particular case, and proceedings should not take place in that particular district court from which you want to get it transferred. So this is the procedure which to be very much clear with the fact that the CAW cell is a separate and the court is separate. CAW cell is a cell, it's called a cell, Mahina Thana, जिसे कहते हैं महिला थाना, that is called crime against women cell. जो वहाँ पे आप कंप्लेंट देते हैं वो एक सेपरेट इंडिपेंडेंट प्रोसीडिंग्स हैं, whereas which you file divorce in the court, it is an independent proceedings. You can't mix both the proceedings together. So filing the divorce petition in the court, in the particular court, in the concerned court, is a separate proceedings, and to move Supreme Court. Yes, of course, I told you, if the state to state transfer of the cases is there, then you have to move to the Supreme Court only. So now claims, we have got the other last question which is coming here. As the session is also about to end, we have only 3-4 minutes. So anybody who is rushing with questions can do it fast. And if somebody has left out after the session, if it feels that some question has been left out, you can of course approach me directly through my Facebook portal. I have an account on Facebook by the name of Juhi Arora and Associates. I have a page there. You can follow me there and can get into link through that particular page. I would try to explain and I would try to throw light on questions most likely as and when. So you can follow me there also for upcoming events and something for some discussions, events and something. If you have not asked for it, no court will punish that woman because the husband has been acquitted. So if the husband has been acquitted because of the false charges, then it is one of the ground for the divorce for the husband. It is one of the ground for suit for defamation for the husband. It can be one of the ground for filing a complaint against that particular wife. But it's not that directly court will acquit the husband and on the other side will punish the wife. So it is nothing like that. You have to ask for it. You have to go and file particular quit and the other side will punish the woman. It is that you have to make that provisions. And then there was other question which coming into my screen is that what is the difference between the claim by such women under 125 and DV? Claim cannot be difference, because I told you that judgment says that it is presumed to be legally married. So it is unnaturally married now. The woman who has a domestic relation relationship. So it is no separate claim is there. Claim can be one only and it can be presumed as a legally wedded wife. So there is no difference of opinion or no difference between the claim by such woman. It have to be same. If the married woman is there, then also she would have filed the same claim, and if she is not married in a relationship, she can file the same claim. So now at the end of the session, I would suggest you that you have to go through these laws again and again in your entire career. And if you choosing the family law as a career, it would really help you to more and more interesting cases. It's not that it's a very boring subject. It might be a